This landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico, and the rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazell was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO Classified. UFO Classified. No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Good afternoon, good evening. I'm Erica Lukes. I was happy to be with my friends from all over the world on a Friday evening. It has been a blustery week here in Salt Lake City in Utah, and driving my 1965 Ford Galaxy convertible has been a bit interesting. I've been trying to avoid the storms until the top gets fixed. If you haven't seen a picture, you should go to my Facebook page or look on UFOclassified.com. It is quite the gem, and I look forward to getting that out and doing some exploring this spring and summer. In a couple weeks, I will be speaking at the Utah UFO Festival, which is a wonderful community effort, a very grassroots effort. I appreciate Nathan Kaulashaw, who has done a great job, and all of the people that are working there. It's a nonprofit. They are really doing the best they can. And it, in my opinion, is one of the best events in the world with regard to the UFO topic. So please, if you are in southern Utah, come see me. Come see all of the great people representing Utah, which is a very exciting state, especially as of late, with all the news and things around Skinwalker Ranch, the Uinta Basin, and also over the Salt Lake skies. I want you to know that I appreciate all of you and your support, and I couldn't do this without my dear friend, Northern UFOs. He is the biggest supporter that I have, and I want to just make sure that all of you know he is truly a patron saint with regard to keeping this show on the air. If you care to contribute, you can go to UFOclassified.com and show your support for the show. It is a listener-supported show, and I appreciate all that you do for me. As we know, tonight is going to be a very interesting night with regard to what's happening on the History Channel, because in a couple hours, Unidentified Inside America's UFO Investigation will make its debut, and this is one of the most hotly sought after shows. We've been waiting, we've been hearing things, social media is ramping up, and all of these articles are taking place in the New York Post, Fox News, MSNBC, all over the place, talking about the fact that, yes, we know that there is something going on. Is it a threat? We don't know. I'm sure some people would like to tell us it is, but it'll be interesting to see the way Intelligence Officer Luis Elizondo and Tom DeLong and Chris Mellon and other people portray this and get information out there. We'll definitely have comments about that next week. My guest this evening has been in the game for decades and has been relentlessly collecting data, which I think that I know that he is the most important person in the world with regard to collecting UFO reports. I don't know how he does it. I was telling him that this afternoon when we were talking. Peter Davenport has been the director of the National UFO Reporting Center since 1994. He reports UFO sightings cases regularly on many different radio stations, radio shows, and lectures. In addition to being the director of the National UFO Reporting Center, he served as the director of investigations for the Washington chapter of the Mutual UFO Network. He's had an active interest since boyhood and had his first sighting over at the St. Louis Municipal Airport in 1954. He investigated his first case in 1965, which it was Exeter, New Hampshire, and has been witness to several anomalous events, which is amazing. He received his undergraduate education at Stanford University, earned his bachelor's degree in both Russian and biology, as well as a translator's certificate in Russian translation. His graduate education was completed at the University of Washington in Seattle, and he has done a lot of other things, which his bio is on my Facebook page and on New Fork. You can check that out, but I want to get to the meat of this because, Peter, I'm so grateful that you're here, and I want to just say what a time. You couldn't have picked a better night to be here because there is so much going on in the news right now.
Well, I was sitting here thinking, thank you, by the way, for that nice introduction, Erica.
Absolutely.
I was sitting here thinking how nice it is to close off a week of UFO work by appearing with the famous Erica Luke.
Oh, that's so nice of you.
It's been a long time since we've been in communication, at least on a radio. I think we were on a radio program at one time.
Yes. Yep. You've been on. It's been a while. Yeah. 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 And I have to just say for my listeners, you were the first person that I reported my sightings to.
Oh, thank you very much for doing that. I'm always touched by and grateful to people for doing that. I wouldn't be able to do my job if it were not for people who generously take a few minutes of their time to record and share with us their UFO sighting. And there are a lot going on. You mentioned in your introduction that there are a lot of reports, and there are. Excuse me. But it's exciting work and very important work. I think you and I are in discussing the UFO phenomenon are addressing the most important scientific question that has ever confronted mankind to this point in his history, namely, are we alone or are we not? And your data and my data strongly suggest that we are not alone and that we have been visited for a long, long time.
Absolutely. And I want to just say, going back to me contacting you, because it really meant a lot to me to have you respond. I mean, you picked up the phone, you talked with me, we developed, a relationship, a friendship. You taught me a lot, and you've always been very gracious and kind. And for somebody that has so much on their plate, that really, really meant a lot.
Well, I try to do it. I'm with serious-minded people. I love talking about this subject. Of course, there are a lot of pranksters and hoaxsters who try to waste our time, and we have to defend ourselves against them. But you're one of the major figures in ufology, and I'm dying to hear what your thoughts are and what your work may have been recently on the subject of red, orange, and yellow fireballs that you and I have talked about at great length in the past.
It was interesting because I just was speaking to somebody today who lives up in Oakley. Regularly, they have a cabin up there, and he was telling me about his sightings and his neighbor's sightings of these spherical objects, amber orange, that were hovering and have been hovering above the tree line and following people and then hovering over their homes and things. And so this is a new little pocket of information for me, but that seems to be the case in kind of remote areas in Utah.
Oh, that's exciting. And I hope you get them to recognize the importance of writing down the information. I know from 25 years as director of the National UFO Reporting Center that virtually everybody wants to talk about their sighting. And one of the hardest parts of my job, in fact, the hardest job I've ever had, is trying to get the American people to recognize that in order for that information to do any good, it has to be written down and reported to an organization like MUFON or the National UFO Reporting Center or UFOs Northwest. Any one of them is okay, but it has to be written down to be able to be preserved and shared with other people.
And that is really true. And I think, unfortunately, we're seeing people who are, instead of filing a report, are turning to social media thinking that that's going to be their report.
Yeah. That, excuse me, is a troubling facet to our line of work. They think that, so as you correctly say, I agree 100%, people are relying on social media to do things that it's not well set up to do at all. And just reporting a UFO sighting on Facebook or Instagram, or I'm not familiar with all of them. I'm not tuned into the social media very much at all. But it troubles me that people think that that is an adequate report. Sharing it with their friends on Facebook just doesn't do it. It doesn't preserve the information and place it in a location where it can be compared with other reports, for example, from around the world.
Absolutely. And I will say that the thing I appreciate about New Fork is the fact that you're taking the information, you're putting it out. It is very succinct and concise, and I think that it is available for the public, and that's important. And that's the one kind of thing that I have with MUFON, one of the few, but is the fact that you have to be a member to really get access to the sightings, and that's unfortunate. That's, I believe, a disservice to the public.
They, in many respects, MUFON does an excellent job. I hold that organization in very high regard. After all, they are set up to investigate sightings and UFO-related events. I am not. I work solo, and I'm merely a conduit for UFO information. But they do a good job at what they do, I think. And I agree with you. This information is best shared with the public, and that's my motivation, is to collect and disseminate hopefully accurate information that will serve to educate and benefit the American people and other people around the world who are on the Internet.
And that is really important for me when I was back in 2013 having a series of sightings of the amber orange spheres over the Salt Lake Valley. I mean, it was very helpful for me to come to your website and to look at other reports. And that's really, between that and then I got involved as a field investigator for MUFON and then state director, but it was really great for me to be able to look at the reports, to look at the data, and then because obviously it's the same type of thing is happening all over the world, and this has been the case for a long, long time.
Yep. We're getting reports of those fireballs from Africa, from Asia, from Europe, from Australia. People are seeing them everywhere, and I don't mean to focus on them except to say that it appears to be a very real phenomenon. Many people tend to discount them as being little more than so-called sky lanterns or Chinese lanterns with a pyrotechnic device to cause them to rise in the sky, but I don't think so. There are too many of them, and in many cases these objects are seen in clusters and seen to maneuver abruptly relative to one another, whereas if they were just sky lanterns drifting with the prevailing winds, one would not expect to see that type of report. But I share your excitement, and I think you're probably the lead investigator on that phenomenon for MUFON, or as an independent investigator.
Right. Yeah. When I was with MUFON, I reached out to Robert Spearing and Terry Ray. Terry had written a book with all of the MUFON data and with regard to the orange amber sphere fireball, and I reached out to them and to Jan Harzan and said, look, this is something that we need to be really focusing on. Nobody's doing that. And I reached out to other state directors and said, hey, if you get reports of this, please notify me. And it was like spitting in the wind. There was, I think, only one state director in the United States that actually took the time and said, hey, this is what we've got going on, because people had that belief system that it was a light in the sky, and you know how they joke about that. It's just a mundane thing, but if you really sit down and you look at the data, it isn't.
Yeah, I don't think all of the reports of fireballs can be ascribed to sky lanterns or Chinese lanterns, and I'd like to share with our audience one of the things I do that helps distinguish sky lanterns from other things that we don't understand, and that is the prevailing wind. If you see one of these objects, make a record of the direction it appears to be moving, and then immediately check with the National Weather Service to get the prevailing winds. For example, if the the objects are seen to be drifting to the north, but the prevailing wind is from north to south, you know you're dealing with something that is self-propelled. But trying to get that simple principle over to the witnesses who contact the National UFO Reporting Center and trying to get them to act on it is one of the most difficult things I've ever done. I'm afraid that Americans, although they're interested in UFOs, are a little bit lackadaisical when it comes to definitively reaching out and trying to get the absolute answer of what they're dealing with.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, what I just kind of pushed myself into this, I couldn't believe it. And even people that are investigating, I mean, they're lazy, and that's too bad, because there are some really important things that are going on and some patterns that we need to look at. And as you feel, these sightings are increasing and becoming more and more kind of almost in your face, which is very, very interesting. And if you could, talk a little bit about that, how the sightings have been changing in that regard over the past couple of years.
Yeah, as we were talking earlier this afternoon, I mentioned that I think there's been a dramatic increase. Well, excuse me, not an increase, a dramatic change is what I meant to say, in the nature of reports that we're receiving, in the sense that even as recently as 2 or 3 years ago, most of the reports I was receiving were reports of lights in the sky, things that were amorphous and indistinct, whereas over recent years, and this has happened even over the last year, I've started receiving reports of distinct objects that appear to be willing to show themselves quite overtly to human observers on the ground and in the air. Excuse me. So it makes me wonder whether we've rounded a corner, we've shifted gears with regard to UFOs, and whether it's coming to some kind of resolution. That is my impression, but I nevertheless recognize that over the last 72 years of UFO research, there have been a lot of predictions that have been made, and I guess most or all of them have been wrong. So I'm on thin ice here, but it's not so much the quantity of reports as it is the nature of the reports that are coming to the National UFO Reporting Center.
And so how much of this could be explained by military?
I think very little. One of the criteria that I use, and I use many when I receive a report over the telephone or over the internet, to try to assess the legitimacy of the report and what it's addressing. One of the criteria I use is the color of lights. And a lot of people are not aware of it, but if you're a mariner or if you're a pilot, you know that any craft, whether it be on the water or in the air, after dusk or dark hours, has to have a red light on its port or left side and a green light on its right or starboard side. It may not have any other light, any other colored light besides red, green, or white. Well, if somebody tells you he just saw a blue light, and I just got such a report from Hawaii of a sighting last night, you know that that is not an aircraft that is flying, certainly legally, and it should not have a blue light. I've been a commercial pilot since October of 1977. I've never seen an aircraft that had anything but a red, a green, or a white light on it. And we get quite a substantial number of reports of objects in the sky that do not have, they have a light of some color other than red, green, or white. So those, by my measure, cannot be from this planet. Even military, civilian, and commercial aircraft are all fall under the same federal law. In fact, it's an international law. Everybody conforms to it around the globe.
And that is interesting. And when I was state director, I was working with a fellow who used to be a chief of aviation safety at Hill Air Force Base. And by his own accounts, that they would never be, and I know that some people could laugh at this, but they would never be testing things over a civilian population because of the safety implications. You know, I'm sure some of us could argue that, but I mean, there are protocols.
Yeah, I agree with that gentleman or lady, whoever it may be. If the military or intelligence communities have air platforms that they use, they certainly would not be testing them over people's backyards. Because, as you correctly point out, and I agree 100%, if there's a failure of a system aboard that aircraft and it goes down in somebody's backyard, you have the risk of harming or killing somebody. But as much, you also have the problem of breaching a secret program by showing overtly the aircraft that has caused the problem. I just don't think they do it. I have had many aircraft reported to me, military, but they're very easily identified for anybody who has any knowledge in aviation. I've had, for example, C-17s or C-141s reported that were on a low power setting, setting up for a landing. But a skilled investigator can very quickly determine whether the witness is talking about a terrestrial aircraft or something else.
Absolutely. And thank you for clarifying that. I think these are good things for people to be aware of and help, because most of the people that listen to my show have had sightings, and I think people they want to understand what this is.
I welcome an opportunity to say a few more comments about the red, orange, and yellow fireballs. If any of our listeners would like to see something very interesting, I would encourage them to go to our website, ufocenter.com, and look at the reports for South Carolina, which is a hotbed of fireball activity.
Absolutely. In fact, we've got a couple more sightings that you sent me that I would love to talk about when we get back from break. I am Erica Lukes, and I'm here with Peter Davenport. We are going to take a quick break, and then we will be back. And you can, Peter, when are you speaking next? Do you have any lectures coming up?
In Denver, the 22nd or 21st of September, I believe.
Wonderful. Okay. And then we will be posting those links and sharing more about New Fork. I'm Erica Lukes. We'll be right back.
This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified.
UFO Classified
with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
Toxins are everywhere, from the air we breathe to the food we eat and the water we drink. In a world where 80,000 known toxins and heavy metals threaten our very existence, how are you going to protect yourself and your loved ones? Introducing Pure Body Extra Strength, the world's first colloidal zeolite that helps trap and remove toxins as well as heavy metals from your body that are messing with your memory, clarity, sleep, and focus. Don't just take our word for it or the testimonials from our thousands of happy customers. Check out the hundreds of articles and case studies on the National Institute of Health website proving zeolite's powerful ability to remove toxins. For a limited time, listeners to KCOR will receive 10% off their first order. To get started, go to trypurebody.com and enter promo code RADIO10. Again, that's trypurebody.com. Toxic junk is all around us, but now you can take back control of your health and protect yourself by detoxing with Pure Body Extra Strength. You'll be on your way to sleeping better, thinking more clearly, and feeling more energetic. Go to trypurebody.com right now and get started today.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
13,000 years ago, the world started its descent into the Dark Ages. History, as we know it, is about to be rewritten in The Emissary, a thrilling new reincarnation fantasy adventure by Tamara Veach and Rennie DeFazio. Ancient mysteries, an epic love story, and the timeless struggle of good versus evil unfold in The Emissary. Available now on Amazon.com. Once you pick it up, you won't want to put it down.
Whoa. The moment my son saw a redwood tree.
It's huge!
Is the moment I knew that for him,
You can't even see the top of that thing.
even the sky has no limit.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go. Your moment is out there. Find it at discovertheforest.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
We interrupt to bring you this.
Would you like to advertise on KCOR Digital Radio Network?
This is what I'm talking about.
At a fraction of the cost of traditional radio advertising, why not?
Tell them the good news.
Whether you need to promote your next book, product, or service, we can customize a package for just about any budget.
Finally, there is hope for the hopeless.
Why limit yourself to a tiny local market when KCOR can brand you to the world?
Here's all you do.
Visit KCORradio.com or contact our sales department by email at saleskcorradio.com.
We want it now!
See the difference with us by letting us work for you.
This ain't reality TV!
The KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Are you ready to go?
Turn the radio.
It's showtime!
Here we go, world.
You're listening to the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Broadcasting from the heart of Las Vegas, Nevada.
Their base is so large it has to draw most of its power from the nearby nuclear fusion plant.
The future of radio is here and now.
You're listening to
UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts!
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back. This is an exciting night for all of us who know that there is something more going on, something that is very profound and deserves the utmost attention and respect. I am here with Peter Davenport, who has been relentlessly doing the world a huge service by collecting UFO reports. They are available on newfork.org, so you can go there. He is constantly updating the website, taking phone calls, doing so much, so we will be able to preserve this important history and hopefully move forward and make great discoveries. I have to say that Peter is truly one of my heroes in that respect, and he has been very gracious to me always. I appreciate that. So, Peter, welcome back. What we were talking about how exciting and critical this time period is that we are living right now. So it means a lot that you're here. And when we left off, you were mentioning you wanted to talk a little bit more about the red fireballs, and it's my favorite topic, so I would love for you to continue.
Yeah, I was just commenting. Earlier today I sent you some links to some of the more dramatic or reliable or convincing reports of fireballs on our website. But I was saying maybe I got cut off during this part of my monologue, but or haranguing. If people would like to see something very interesting, they could go to the data on our website, ufocenter.com, and look at all the data from South Carolina. I actually wrote an article on the subject for the UFO Journal that is published monthly by MUFON, edited by Roger Marsh. I wrote an article about all of the reports or how many reports of these fireballs are appearing in South Carolina, and specifically the East Coast, the easternmost part of the state. I believe that's Horry County, Horry County. And people are seeing these fireballs, and interestingly, and this militates against the possibility that they might be sky lanterns or so-called Chinese lanterns. They are seen out over the water at high angles of elevation, 30 to 60 degrees of elevation. And that, to my way of thinking, tends to rule out the possibility that they're any kind of man-made device. They're clearly not military flares.
They're absolutely not. And that's what is so interesting. And because I witnessed these objects, as most of my listeners know, that is what propelled me to learn about people like Dr. Harley Rutledge and Project Identification, the study that he did back in Missouri in the 70s, and learn about Erling Strand and the research they're doing over in Norway and different places around the world where they really are taking this seriously and are not just looking for the single smoking gun case. And I think in American ufology or whatever we want to call it, we are looking for a Roswell, or we're looking for Rendlesham, and there will never be a single case that blows this open. It is the data. It is the story that tells.
I agree, and I invite any of our listeners to visit my website, again, ufocenter.com, very simple, which is easier to remember, by the way, than nuforc.org. But they go to the same place, the same website. I invite people just to read some of the reports. Go to any month at random and read some of the reports, and they will quickly see that the subject you and I have been talking about, and which both of us are so interested in, the fireball cases, are liberally sprinkled through all of the reports for every month. It's really very strange, and I have no explanation for it, which is the reason I'm so adamant in wanting to get an answer and so adamant in studying the phenomenon.
When you had an interesting case, a person that called you today, and that story is very interesting. Would you mind sharing that with us?
Oh, I'd love to. In fact, I think I sent two of them, which occurred not far apart from one another, at least temporally, if not geographically. This morning, the 31st of May, Friday, a young woman who describes herself as a medical nurse was outside her home about 1:30 or 1:40, as I recall. I'm going on memory now. I don't have the case in front of me. And she saw one of these fireballs. And it captured her attention immediately. She knew it was very strange, quickly ruled out the possibility that in her neighborhood at that hour of the day there would be a Chinese lantern floating around. And then, to her amazement, the fireball was red. To her amazement, a creature, a bipedal creature, walked up to the red fireball and stepped inside the fireball, at which point the fireball just disappeared. Now, I have not yet talked to the woman. I haven't had a conversation with her. She was working during the day today. But she writes a very nice email, and that goes a long way towards underscoring her reliability, I think. But if this is the case, it tells us that there's some aspect to those fireballs that we have not yet suspected. And there's something very important about them. So I thought, because of your interest in this phenomenon, Erica, that I would share that case with you. This is the first time it's been shared anywhere.
Thank you.
And I hope to have all those reports posted to our website sometime tomorrow or Sunday.
Well, and that is an incredible case, and like you say, you feel that the woman is reliable, and you also mentioned when I was speaking with you that you got the impression that she was very, very unnerved.
Yeah, she writes that in her report, that it was very unsettling for her, and that's one of the criteria that you can use for trying to assess whether a report is sincere and accurate or not, whether somebody's trying to hoax you. But I was very impressed with this report and very impressed with the follow-up written communication from this witness. And moreover, there was that was a case this morning, just 15 hours ago. But there was also a similar sighting. Didn't involve a creature. It involved fireballs down off the Louisiana coast last night. And it was submitted by a gentleman who apparently works on a drilling platform. And he and another gentleman saw at least 2 red fireballs in the night sky off the coast of Louisiana from their workplace. So these red fireballs are showing up everywhere. And this report from this woman in, again, the community is Ballard in North Seattle, it underscores the fact that our suspicions are correct. This is a very important phenomenon, and it goes way beyond what our mere 5 senses are telling us is going on.
And do you feel, because sometimes we have a need to separate things, and I don't know where these boxes that we started doing, placing things in this, the ghost or paranormal or UFO or, da-da-da-da-da. I think sometimes, for me, I know that when I have had a UFO sighting, that there are things that take place that other people would consider paranormal. And I don't believe that we can separate the two, and I don't think it's necessarily when we're researching this the wisest thing to do. How do you feel that intersects, and do you ever get other reports from people who've had UFO sightings that talk about these orbs coming into their homes?
Indeed I do, and not just orbs, but creatures actually walking through walls. They're not very common reports. And I couldn't direct a person to the last one I've taken, but paranormal, by my definition, would suggest that events are taking place for which our normal technology would not provide an explanation for them. So that certainly applies to the UFO phenomenon, I think. And therefore, I guess we have to call the UFO phenomenon a paranormal phenomenon, even though I've been working in this field so long that it's become more normal than paranormal, I guess. But I agree, a lot of these paranormal phenomena that people report, poltergeists and ghosts and so on and so forth, may in fact have a quite solid foundation, a very real purpose or reason behind them that is related to the UFO phenomenon, and they may just be nothing more than technology that is being used by the presumed occupants of these UFOs. So, after all, if they can cross the galaxy and detect our civilization on a tiny little speck of a rock and come and visit us routinely, I conclude that they must have an ability to manipulate matter, energy, and information to a degree that you and I cannot even imagine, Erica.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I wanted to ask you, because you have been in this for so long, you have undoubtedly, it's not, I mean, you've seen the way the powers that be, specifically the United States government, has a vested interest in steering the narrative or quieting down all the information, or pushing it here and pushing it there, and then creating smoke screens. And so what is your thought on the current push now from To the Stars Academy and that group to get information out, and all of the TV shows that are coming out?
Yeah, it addresses my greatest fear, and that is our government almost certainly has had contact with aliens. And I would say, if that's the case, they may be having a continuing dialogue with aliens. If that is the case, aliens, moreover, may have the ability to peer into the future. They may have the ability to manipulate what we call time, in which case they can see future events clearly that you and I know nothing about. For example, this is an example of how far my mind goes afield when I'm addressing the UFO phenomenon. Our government has mounded up a huge public debt, $27 trillion, we're told, and it may be double that according to some individuals. They're never, ever going to be paying it off. What I wonder is whether they are doing that knowing fully well something about our future that would obviate the need for paying off a debt, some kind of crisis, a big asteroid striking our planet that would threaten to wipe out civilization, something along those lines. That will share with our listeners just how far afield my mind roams in trying to assess what I am dealing with as I work in the field of ufology. There are a lot of possibilities that could explain a lot of what's going on this planet. In fact, one other example, tragically, we've had a lot of catastrophes, a lot of ghastly crimes committed, most of them with firearms, but many of them with trucks and other means of harming other people. And oftentimes, the perpetrators of these crimes die in the course of it. It makes me wonder whether there could be an agenda there about which we mere humans and mere American citizens know nothing. In other words, these people are somehow, some way, for some purpose that we don't know, being put up to these crimes, being put up to the actions they take that are so horrific. And for what objective, I don't know, but it could be explained by a desire to get firearms or any other kind of defensive weapons out of the hands of the American people.
And that's a great thought. I think there's so many things that we're probably so many weapons that we're probably experimenting with as well, that could have effects far-reaching on people and their personalities and moods and health and all sorts of things. And it's just like, how are we ever going to know, what one thing is or what another thing is, or, Yeah,
I think we can know. We as American citizens have the authority to force our government to come clean on what it knows about these things. And just a comment about some of these recent videos about the U.S. Navy and the incidents that their pilots allegedly have experienced that Louis Elizondo has talked about so many times. But the Navy we know for a fact has run what is called the fence. It is the Naval Space Surveillance System that used to stretch from San Diego to the state of Georgia. And they used a passive radar system. In other words, they would radiate a radio signal, a very strong, very powerful radio signal. And when anything in orbit flew through that radio signal, it would reflect a weakened signal back down to ground level, and the Navy could triangulate on it and calculate its orbital pattern, its orbital path. Well, we were told by NASA and by other government folks that they can detect things down as small as a golf ball, for example. Well, the question I ask, and I have asked it in a paper that I published with MUFON, is if they can detect things down as small as a packet of cigarettes or a golf ball, are we to believe that they cannot detect a saucer-shaped object that is 30, 60, or 120 meters in diameter? Well, obviously they can, and they have been doing so ever since that system has been in operation. So I am amused. I have a cocked eyebrow when the Navy tells me about these intercepts that their pilots have had. Their radar system has no doubt been detecting these UFOs for a long time. And I once contacted the command center of the Naval Space Surveillance System. I believe it was in Fort Stewart, Georgia, if I'm not mistaken. And I identified myself and told them I'd like to talk to somebody who knew something about the Naval Space Surveillance effort. And I was put on the line a minute later or so with a young woman who was the public affairs officer. And when I told her who I was, she said, "Mr. Davenport, I know who you are, and I feel very uncomfortable being on the telephone with you. I'm going to have to curtail or end this conversation right now." And she hung up. That's the public affairs officer.
Wow.
So my suspicion that the Navy has been detecting UFOs going back to the 1950s, and I suspect in very large numbers, I think my suspicions are borne out by that experience.
That's incredible. Have you ever been approached by anyone in intelligence or anybody that wanted to kind of cozy up to you or to find out more about the data that you have?
Well, I would presume that they're intercepting all the data that comes to or emanates from the National UFO Reporting Center. But in direct response to your question, Erica, yes, I have been approached by both the CIA and the FBI back in years past. In fact, I'm going to slide a door shut. I don't know if you can hear that train in the background.
I like it. It gives it ambiance.
Shortly, the month after the Phoenix Lights event, which occurred on the 13th of March, 1997, I was contacted by an FBI office, FBI special agent in the New York office, and he requested a meeting that took place in May of that year, and it lasted 4 hours. It was a knockdown, drag-out type meeting. They were looking for hard data, and I got the impression that it was related to the Phoenix Lights event. Shortly after the Phoenix Lights, an A-10 being flown by a captain, an instructor in A-10s, peeled off from a flight, and it took them a long, long time to find it. I'm not sure they ever did find it, or they ever did find the bombs that they were hanging off the wing of that aircraft. But they were very interested in what I could tell them. And with regard to the CIA, I wrote a paper on the use of passive radar for detecting UFOs directly. I still want to do it. If there are any people out there who would like to help fund this project, please get in touch with me. But the day MUFON published my paper in the proceedings for the 2004 symposium in Denver, I got a call from a senior officer at the Central Intelligence Agency who said, like so many people say, you don't know me, Mr. Davenport, but I know you, has sort of an X-Files theme to it. He said, I'm calling to congratulate you on your paper on passive radar. He said, for my first 20 years at the CIA, I built passive radar systems for clandestine detection of aerial targets. And he said, if you build the system you describe in your paper, you will be successful in answering whether the UFO phenomenon is real or not. He didn't say you will detect UFOs. I suspect that would have had him violating a security oath. He said you will be successful in answering the question of whether UFOs are real or not.
How interesting. Well, I am sure you've experienced a lot of things, and even in my brief time, I can't believe some of the things that I've experienced and some of the interference and people monitoring communications and things. It gets pretty intense at times, but I suppose when you know you're on the right track.
Yeah, and it's a little annoying knowing that, or suspecting, I should say suspecting, not knowing, that the government is monitoring my work. And one of the questions I asked somebody involved with the AATIP effort is whether they had access or whether they used the reports collected by organizations like mine, by the National UFO Reporting Center. And the response was, yes, we use all of that. So they're siphoning off material, information, and not acknowledging it and not letting us know that that's the case.
Wow. And I'm not surprised. I have to say that I believe that there has been a big effort, a concerted effort to get a lot of information, research, data into a specific place where that can basically disappear and they can run, specific programs on that and analyze the data. So it is a fascinating time, and I think people need to understand that that is really, really taking place. And this should be for people who don't want to see all of the research for the past 50, 60 years disappear. We need to be aware of this, and we need to make sure we get this out to the public, especially here in America, because they're this close to rewriting history on all of this, and we can't have that happen.
Yep. And one of the things we ufologists have to address, you mentioned preserving the data. I'm getting to the age where I've got to start thinking about how I turn this operation over to somebody else, because obviously I can't do it forever. And at my age, the amount of stress I put up with in the course of a typical day is more than I care to admit I'm dealing with. But it's probably not good for a person my age. And what we really need is a college dedicated to the UFO phenomenon, where people like me can place their data and make it available to anybody who's interested and preserve it.
Well, we're going to have to, I will talk to you. I will call you, and I appreciate you being here so much. You are a wonder. I am here with Peter Davenport. You can go to ufocenter.com. Peter, thank you for being here, and I will be back after the break.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at ufoclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified. UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
The disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico, and the rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brizell was the man who discovered the saucer.
what I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
I'm Erica Lukes. Welcome to UFO Classified. This is the second hour, and I'm always happy to be here on KCOR. I want to give a big thanks to my producer, Tina Marie, who is always rolling with it, because I'm one of those kind of freestyle types of girls, and it's last minute for me, and I like to get people on that are relevant to what is going on today in the subject. There's lots of news, especially with the show tonight on the History Channel. I'll be getting some popcorn, grabbing a glass of wine, watching that to see how that rolls out. Peter Davenport was on the first hour. Now I'm going to take call-ins, but I've also got my friend Nathan on the line, who was on the road. Yeah. And Nathan, I just want to say, first of all, when I met Nathan, just to give my audience a background, we became friends because you wanted to become a field investigator for MUFON, and I was state director, and you had this grand idea to start a Utah UFO festival. And I was like your mother. I was so worried about that, because I know how stressful doing this is as a business owner, putting on events like this, and you had that fire in you. You weren't going to let it go, and you didn't let it go. And I'm so grateful that you have persevered, because you have created a beautiful event here in our home state, which in my opinion is one of the most important places on the planet for this. And I look forward to being there in 2 weeks down at the Three Peaks Recreation Center and presenting alongside some great presenters. So, I mean, thank you for doing that, Nathan. I know how hard all of you work.
That's correct. It's walking the walk every year, and we actually pay to walk the walk because it's absolutely free to the public, and we're inclusive. And I think the reason why we have to do that is because we can't present certain information if it was commercialized, because it would be perhaps perceived as exploitation. And I'm talking more from a cultural perspective here, from some of the cultures here in the American Southwest. So I'm hoping that as we grow and we continue to follow this paradigm, that more and more maybe native voices or voices from different communities here in the Southwest might willing to be open up a little bit to share information that they would not normally share on a TV show or something of that nature. And I think that's why a lot of TV shows are left to speculation, because there's a lot of information that can't be presented in a certain context without the right proper type of respect. So I think that's what we're trying to do with the festival. We're trying to teach people, but we're also trying to address this phenomenon with the respect that it requires in order for it to be taken a little more serious, or to learn even more, if that makes sense.
It absolutely does. And I mean, you just said something that is so important. You are offering this event for free. And I cannot think of another conference or even a MUFON organization, honestly, or your chapter, or people that don't charge for events. And that's huge.
Yeah, and it's because of some of the sensitive nature. Like we have a friend coming up here. I don't know him personally, but Ronald Regier is inviting him. His name is Maleva. I believe he's Hopi. He's coming here, and the next year I've got a friend named Philip Mashicki, who's Ottawa. He's from the Ottawa tribe, from the Great Lakes area, the Anishinaabe, and he's willing to work with me on next year's event. We're going to be bringing more and more Native speakers, Indigenous speakers from around Native communities around America to come and speak at next year's event. So these guys are going to be presenting information that I think is going to enrich and maybe even culturally awake our greater community. And I think this is part of that awakening that a lot of people have been talking about. And I go to a lot of conferences like UFO Congress, and the energy is already alive and well. I know there's a lot of like places like Contact in the Desert. Some people would call that a sort of a commercial crapshoot, but I still find important people at those events. So I don't try to demonize other events. I just believe in order for us to really wake up, we've got to get away from the monetary commercial nature of these events. And we have to start pushing a narrative and, creating a prototype that's going to help truly awake humanity. And I think our message is good because we're inclusive of everyone, and we break away those economic barriers, and we're allowing, we even kind of welcome non-humans there. So it's like, this is truly a higher form of potential society in the future. If we can learn how to develop outside of our current systems, I think we could find a higher road to take.
And I love that. And I think that, for me, having lectured at or gone to some of these other UFO conferences, they're great and I have a great time, but I find that it's the same people that are speaking over and over and over again, and I'm not learning anything. You get to a point where it's like you just don't learn anything. It's almost more of a social interaction. And I want to learn, and I want to see new people like the people you are putting forward. And you're doing it in a setting that is absolutely stunning. I'm so excited it's back at Three Peaks. I remember a couple of years ago when we were there and watching as the presenters were there, the sun was setting and there were people up on the rocks, with the sunset behind them, and just thinking, oh my gosh, this is out in the middle of nowhere and there are a lot of people here. And they are absolutely appreciative of what you're doing. And it was a very touching moment for me to see that.
Yeah. And it's always been a struggle building this thing every year. I really have to walk the walk, but, we had a recent, sponsor that has stepped up to the plate, and they want to be our title sponsor next year. And they want to be with us for the long term, which means if anyone else tried to take that slot, they would match the contribution. So we've got some real hardcore, dedicated people starting to see what it is we're really trying to do here, and they're starting to believe in the vision. They're starting to feel affinity for it. So I think it's going to be very successful this year, and everything's still coming together like it always does. And because we're not a normal event that gets things squared away 8 months in advance, and because we are so inclusive, we have things that come through the pipeline, just days before the event. So we don't always have that set roster squared away. We always allow kind of new developments to occur like naturally, because I think that's where the intuition lies. And it's happening that same way. Like yesterday, we just got 3 new speakers added to the lineup. And so, we've got a lot with very little short screen time at night. So we're still hacking this thing and figuring out how to make it better every year, and we're still learning as we move forward.
Well, that's the creative process, and you do things a lot the same way I do. It's like I'm waiting to the last minute. I never book guests weeks out in advance because I don't feel they're relevant to that day or that specific time. So, and I think that's just I never want to be another radio show, because I actually researched this. I'm not just a radio show host. I care about it, so I want to change and evolve and adapt and be progressive. And I think you do the same thing with getting people and then reaching out to people, getting people excited, and I look forward to that. I remember when we were at Three Peaks a couple of years ago, the Navajo Rangers were talking, and that was when the sun was setting, and they were talking about their skinwalker experiences, and also experiences when they were working with NIDS, and it was a very interesting evening. And we were camping there, some interesting experiences after that lecture, but it was just, I'm looking forward to it. And this year I wanted to say, you've got one of my friends speaking, Greg Bishop is coming up, who wrote Project Beta. He's one of my favorite people in the field. Who else is speaking?
We definitely got Ron Regier. We have Maleva, who's going to be speaking at the event. Then we do have Travis Walton coming back, but we also have his son Luke, who's going to speak for the first time ever. He's never ever spoken at any event, and he wants to share some experiences he has grown up with his dad, and dealing with some of the issues that his dad had to deal with throughout his growing up years. And so I think Luke has a lot of insight. Me and Luke are really good friends personally. I often stop in and visit with him when I'm passing through, near Snowflake. And so I like to meet up with him and just talk to him, because Luke is very outgoing. He has a lot of insight, and, both him and Travis together are just really intuitive. And so we've got some other speakers coming, but we haven't got everything squared away on slots yet. So I will announce more. We do have Ron James coming. We have Joe Bookman. He's going to be coming. He's getting some people together. We're probably going to be doing another citizens hearing at the event. We've got some bands. I mean, everything's just coming together. We've got more speakers. I don't have them all off the top of my head. I should have had some notes here in front of me.
Oh, Nathan. God.
And you already mentioned Greg Bishop, and you're speaking, and Dave Rosenfeld speaking, and as well as Ryan Burns. So,
but see, that's great. I mean, now you've got Utah represented, and with Ron and everybody. I mean, that is really cool.
Yeah, next year we actually have some of the Utes. We're gonna have a few Ute people from the Fort Duchesne community around near Skinwalker Ranch. We're going to have them presenting. One of our board members, one of our festive organization members, is registered with the Ute tribe. His name is Rex. He's helped us with the event for 3 years, and so he's going to be coordinating with people in his community, and we'll be getting some new voices, new faces, to share information, to share knowledge, to share insight, so people can understand maybe a little bit better, get a little bit better of a grip. See, it's funny because we treat this as a mystery, as a phenomenon, but for some cultures here in the Southwest, they don't really consider it a mystery. They consider it kind of a part of the history of this land. And so, like when I've heard different perspectives, not everybody's native believes in the phenomenon, but the ones that usually do, they seem to be, I guess, a little more traditional. And it's really interesting because they get they get a little perturbed when we act like we discovered this phenomenon. It's like, you guys didn't discover this. We knew about it long before you guys came here into the Southwest, before your ancestors did. So.
Isn't that amazing? And that's a great point. It's like we act like, the revelations on TV now or in the New York Post or New York Times are like the end all be all, but it's like, this has been going on for a long time, and people have talked about it.
And it's inexplicable to us because we really don't understand the intricacy of how it interacts with humanity. But we know that there's these intelligences, and we speculate as to whether they're interdimensional or whether they're interstellar. But what we do know is that they've been around for a very long time, and they've been interacting with us for a very long time, and they may be shaping our evolving nature as human beings, and they may have been doing that for a very long time. And so it's part of our humanity in a way to interact with these things. And I think maybe why it's such a mystery to us is because we've worked so hard in Western culture to detach ourselves from our indigenous ancestors, from our life ways. It's kind of like Western culture kind of acculturated and assimilated that. And so it's detached itself from a lot of these original life ways. And everybody has ancestry that's tied. John Trudell, who was Lakota, said that everyone on this planet is indigenous, and everyone had a DNA is tied to a certain land base somewhere. All of our ancestors came from somewhere on this planet, and we all had these life ways. And so I think that's a pivotal key. That serves as a pivotal key to understanding this mystery, is if we can start reconnecting and looking at it through that lens.
And I love that. This is it's such an important perspective, and I honestly, I am very grateful that I know you. You will totally rock, and I see every year how much you just put into this. Your whole family is there, and
They're
come
volunteers.
Yes, and you come from an LDS background, and you're doing this in a really conservative community, and that has been an interesting experience for you. But you have pushed those boundaries. You've opened, you've communicated with everyone and invited them with open arms, and they've been receptive.
Yes, and it's been very supernatural in a way, because there's greater forces at play in this movement. I'm actually it's hard to say this without kind of revealing certain details, but I kind of feel like I'm being led, like I'm being told what to do, and I'm following those instructions to a T. And as long as I continue to follow that format, this should continue to grow. And it just requires my faith and fortitude to keep it breathing, to keep giving it life every year. It requires me to be sort of a catalyst to bring it all together. So I use references to movies often, because we've lost our traditional storytellers in Western culture, and so I often refer to movies because it's like the television set and the movie screen they're kind of like a clone copy of a clone version of a storyteller, and so I often refer to the references to movies to kind of help people connect the dots with what I'm talking about. But if you ever seen Kevin Costner in Field of Dreams, remember where the voice says, "If you build it, they will come."
Right. Yep.
It's sort of it's a little bit sort of like that, just not so sensational. I feel like that's kind of what this is all about. It's very intuitively based. It's intuitively inscribed, and so as it continues to grow, I think it's going to be amazing to see what happens in my short lifetime as this thing continues to get a life of its own and continues to grow and progress.
Well, I will never forget some of in fact, I've got these all on video, and I need to edit them and get them out there, but having conversations with people from Utah and people from a woman last year from New Zealand, talking about their sightings and seeing how that affected them and different things. And I loved that. I mean, these were people that had their lives really kind of just changed in a profound way, and they're trying to come to some understanding, like most of us who've seen things. And when you try to get out there and you turn to ufology, a lot of times you're misled. And so it's really refreshing to see a good place and some new speakers, and to see your sincerity. That speaks a lot.
Yeah, let me throw out a few more details about next year's event too. Like, I'm working on this year's event as well as next year simultaneously. We do have David Paulides coming next year, who does the Missing 411 books, and I feel like he's got a very deeply entrenched understanding of some of the indigenous communities. I've actually had recommendations from various people from some of the native communities that I frequent and network with, who have referred to him. And so I finally reached out to him and to find out what he would require to have him here. And we've got him coming next year. We've already communicated that. So we've got him. We've got Philip Mashicki, who's with the Ottawa Hoobie speaking. We're going to have folks from Fort Duchesne. And then we've got a guy probably coming up from Mexico who is really good friends with Philip Mashicki, who is going to be doing an in-depth interpretation on analysis on the Mayan calendar. And I believe he's Mayan, and he has a much more traditional understanding of the history of the Mayan culture and Mayan history. So it's going to be interesting to have him here. And the thing is I think we have so much to learn as a dominant culture. We could be enriched by these things, but they're often, I think, because of these communities being oppressed in today's day and age and not having any representation at all under our current system, because they literally have no political representation or power. I think their information is not getting out. And so they don't really have a way to amplify what they could provide to us and give to us freely if we weren't out to exploit it. If we could learn how to show respect to it, I think we're heading into an age, generally speaking, where we're going to be expanding. We're going to be enlightened. Our old world is going to be dying, and we're going to be progressing, and it's going to be a change for the better. And these things will enrich humanity eventually. And as you can see, Erica, you probably noticed there's a lot of evil going on in the world right now. You know, a lot of these religious institutions that a lot of people thought that they could trust. There's these revelations coming out left and right about, you know, child abuse and sexual abuse. And those are things I don't normally talk on the radio, and I won't talk about them here, but I think people are catching wind of what I'm talking about. A lot of things are going to start falling away as more of those revelations start hitting the fan, and that's when we will start to discover the true metaphysical reality that we've been blind to for so long. And I think a lot of us are waking up, and a lot of us have been waking up for decades. But we're in an exciting age right now where we're about to hit an apex that we've never witnessed in recent history of humanity.
No, we haven't, and I think there's also a big push to gather all the UFO data and to put it in the deep, dark hole, and then to rewrite the history. And I can't stress that enough. I've noticed that.
Who do you think is doing that? Who's the main culprit? Do you think that's doing that?
I will plead the fifth on that one.
Huh?
I'll plead the fifth.
You don't want to speculate?
You know what? I've been doing research on this, and I'm just not going to go there quite yet. But I think that it is. Okay. It's very. It is very interesting, and we need to realize that right now, with all of the media and different things, there's a very deliberate attempt to push the narrative, and I think that we need to be careful and not necessarily. You know, each of us who've had personal experiences need to hold our personal experiences and not look to others for validation or to tell us if this is evil alien or to tell us if it's a demon or A, B, C, and D. We need to step back and pull away from quote unquote ufology and find our own truth, because this whole field has been so muddied. And it's just tainted, and that's not fair to each person who's had a sighting. You know, like you say, we are really in a pivotal time, and I appreciate all of you, and I appreciate everything that you guys do. And like I said, I can't wait to come out. And you can go to UtahUFOFestival.org to get tickets, to learn about the location, to learn about the speakers, and to support this wonderful work from this nonprofit. I'm here, and next half an hour, Nathan, you're going to be here with me. We're going to take callers. Okay. I believe Amy's going to call in, and then perhaps Bruce, to talk about some of their personal experiences. I am, like I said, Erica Luke's here. You can go to UFOClassified.com or ericalukes.com. Stick around. We will be right back.
Stand by.
This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified.
UFO Classified
with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
Vegas, baby!
Vegas is #1 source for talk and new music.
How cool is that?
1 million miles till midnight. A story of timelines, artificial worlds, simulated races, and the galactic imprint, and the destiny of a blue world called Earth. 1 million miles till midnight, written by Solaris Blue Raven, is a journey through the mind's eye which allows the reader to surf a wave of technological and multidimensional intellect, revealing a bridge between conscious design and the truth. A multidimensional bleed-through awakens the world of artificial intelligence to set sail into the frontiers of a vast multiverse, morphing planets and terraforming ascended worlds beyond the linear programs of a fated race. 1 million miles till midnight will awaken, inspire, prepare, and enlighten one to the many multidimensional states of consciousness and worlds we reside in. With every cell and atom, we are this truth and multiverse. 1 million miles till midnight. Written by Solaris Blue Raven. Available now at Amazon.com. Don't wait. Get your copy today.
There is a world outside that which we live in. A realm where fact and fiction collide. The Paradigm Matrix. The Paradigm Matrix. Hosted by Willie Miranda. Every Friday night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern.
The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us, even now in this very room.
The 1-hour show that will surely leave you hanging on the edge of the rabbit hole. The Paradigm Matrix explores a universe of topics from UFOs, cryptozoology, conspiracies, as well as all things paranormal.
Enter a world of the twisted and deformed.
Friday night, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. The Paradigm Matrix. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network, where fact and fiction collide.
Alien Deceptions, a suspenseful sci-fi romance thriller by Tina Marie, featuring the tantalizing Erica Jones and the mysterious Russell Hamilton. An out-of-this-world book of fiction based on years of document facts and files the government does not want you to know about. At least, not yet. Alien Deceptions by Tina Marie. Available now at Amazon.com or get a signed copy at TinaMarieEntertainment.com. Get your copy now.
1, 2, 3, 4!
To the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Love the music. Oh, I listen all day.
The future of radio is here and now.
You're listening to
UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
Final segment of UFO Classified. I'm always happy to be here. You can find me at UFOclassified.com, on Facebook, Twitter. I'm trying to tweet, but I'm telling you, sometimes tweeting just takes too much energy out of me. You can also go to support the show at UFOclassified.com. I appreciate all of the people that have been supporting the show, because it is you that is keeping me on the air and helping me to create a huge archive that will be open to the public, that is open to the public, to help educate and preserve history. Next week on Monday, I will be flying into LA, where I'm going to be with Gordon Lohr, and I will be with Jan Aldrich and Tom Tulane. And these three people have been so active in this and preserving history. It is absolutely amazing. I can't wait to show you all the things that I'm learning from them and tell you all about it. I have a book that is coming out. Gordon Lohr is the co-author. That'll be coming out in October, so I will keep you updated. But I am here with my friend Nathan, who absolutely rocks. I just have the utmost respect for him. The 2019 4th Annual Utah UFO Festival is coming up June 13th to the 16th at Three Peaks Recreation Area and Campground. So you can come down. I hope you can join us all there. Nathan, we were talking about just some of the great speakers, some of the people that you're going to have, and I know that we have got Amy that wants to call in, so we will wait for her to call in. We would love to hear from her. She's a listener of the show, but I want to ask you really quickly about a couple of your sightings, because you've had some profound sightings.
Yeah, I've and it's blossomed out a lot deeper than that, and it's reconnecting me to my early childhood too. I've had some experiences that are bringing back. I never went through the supposed, you know how they are in UFO culture, like we need to regress you and we need to figure out what happened in your past. And it's like my LDS traditions have always kind of kept me that kind of a taboo thing to me to oppose taboo, so I don't usually dabble with any of that sort of stuff. And when invited, I've usually in a friendly manner turned them down. So, but I'm having things come back to me, and I realize this is part of a life progression type ordeal where you have to learn as you go, and then it becomes quite apparent. And so this sort of stuff has been affecting me since my teen years, my mid-teen years, and even into my childhood, even though the distance between the two became much greater in my younger years. But, so right now it took in 2013, I saw orange orbs out in Nevada on extraterrestrial highway after I've been going out there since up to that point, since I was like 8 years old when my parents first took me out there. And I'd never seen anything in my whole life, and I've spent my entire life out in the hills with my grandparents. They ran a mining company that took us out on Grand Staircase. It was a way of life my whole entire life. So I was always out in the hills, always raised in a small town. And it wasn't until about 2013 that I saw these objects, and they maneuvered and they went down into the valley. And then on, a second sighting that I had was a triangular shaped craft outside of Dulce, New Mexico, outside of the Hickory Apache Nation. And that was when I was on my way to Indian Market with a load of alabaster carving stone to sell to Native American stone carvers or trade for art. And that occurred, I believe that was 2014, August of 2014. And I later reached out to the Hickory Apache Nation, and some of the individuals in that community became intrigued with what had happened to me. And so, later on I was invited to come out and take photos at their first ever Dulce-based conference. And I took a group of them out to the location of where I had this experience. And everyone in that community had a ton of stories to share with me. And I became really good friends over the years since then with that community. And I still keep in touch with them on a regular basis. And then I did see the Marfa Lights down in West Texas when I was traveling the borderlands. I did an 8,000-mile borderlands trip from San Diego down to the basement of Brownsville, where I was doing a photography expedition, and I was camping primitively every night along the U.S.-Mexican border in a lot of places that normal people don't go, because I really wanted to learn about the border issues firsthand. I didn't believe what I was hearing on television, what people were saying and talking about it in the media. So I went down there physically on my own, and that was 2015. And I saw the Marfa Lights, and I didn't even know that was a hot spot. I was there filming locations from the Coen Brothers film, No Country for Old Men. So UFOs weren't even on my mind at the time when I experienced that. And I later, found out about the details of the Marfa Lights, and it became fascinating. So, and that story is pretty intricate, and it would take a while to tell. So I wanted to kind of just keep it brief.
Wow. And I have to tell everyone that you are an amazing photographer. You are always putting up pictures, and my Lord, they're absolutely stunning.
Yeah, it's photography is sort of like, as an intuitive person, photography sort of becomes my medium for communicating and interpreting my environment and my surroundings around me. So I photograph places where I feel that energy, or where I'm sensing something, and sometimes I've got a lot of stories I could share with that, especially with particular photos that I've taken, and sometimes people can pick up on what I'm talking about regarding this. So yeah, it's photography kind of chose me naturally, I guess, as an artist. I do other things as an artist, but photography is my main course, my main tool of choice, I guess.
And it's you're incredibly gifted, and I love always looking at your photography. And I want to bring on, absolutely, I wanted to bring on Amy, because she has been on hold, and Amy is a big supporter of the show and a listener. And Amy, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Well, hi, Erica.
How you doing?
Oh, excellent. I just got through listening to you talking to Peter, and was really amazed about his idea that he had about a UFO college.
Yes. Wouldn't that be amazing?
A UFO college?
Yes, Peter Davenport was on the first hour, and I know you were traveling, Nathan, and Peter Davenport, No. Peter Davenport is, he has New Fork, and so it is one of the world's best UFO sightings reports places, and so he was talking about the fact that he's getting a little bit older, and he needs to figure out how to pass this on. And then he mentioned a UFO college, which, Nathan, you might be interested in this, being younger, and I know you've got a lot of spare time.
But it's filled with a lot of work.
No, I know. I'm kidding. I was just like, well, put that on your plate. But I mean, Amy, like, talk about that college, because maybe some of the people that are listening could get interested in that.
Well, here's one of the things I realized. The exact curriculum that astronauts go through in their classroom training is exactly the kind of training that people in the UFO field would need. And I can kind of go through a little list that I have here. Astronomy, say the celestial sphere. Somebody I know had sent me a picture of the Gillian Ranch, and I was looking at it and going, this is familiar, this pattern of stars that I was looking at. So they were going all crazy in their plastic lawn chairs over Cassiopeia. And it was just a simple identification of time and what was in the sky at the time, and here it's right there. And I'm not saying all of them are going to be that way. I'm just saying in this particular instance, what they were going crazy over was a known star.
And Amy, like, I wanted... Oh, so go ahead. Sorry.
It's okay.
Meteorology.
Meteorology is another topic that you need to know about. You need to know about rocket propulsion and aviation principles, like the lights that he's talking about, the difference between the lights that would be on starboard and port, real basic things. Spacecraft types, astrodynamics, also known as celestial dynamics. And what that is a study of how orbits work mathematically, with the actual basic Newtonian physics. If you have something, and you sight something going across the sky, and it's horizon to horizon, and it's, about 7 minutes, and it's a straight line, well, that that's probably a satellite. Now, if you have something that does like a sudden 20 or 30 degree turn in that path, then it's something else. It's not a satellite, because, from your study of celestial dynamics, that kind of maneuver would take a tremendous amount of energy that isn't afforded to a standard spacecraft that you put in orbit. And you would also need to know about photography and the basic principles there as well. And so these are all things that they train astronauts on in the classroom when they go through their basic rugby training before they fly to a spaceflight.
And Amy, give us a little bit, if you can, of your background, because your background is quite important.
Well, I kind of came into all this, and I had kind of a parallel interest all along. I've always been a space nerd, and I, do the same research and look at the same NASA technical manuals that they use to study for their flights. The basic documents and the checklists and everything else they use up there, and I have a lot of that in my own archive to this day. And it just struck me as that the curriculum that they were teaching all these folks that flew up there is basically identical to what you would actually want to train a UFO investigator to have, the knowledge base that you'd want them to have.
Well, both you and I have had some fascinating conversations behind the scenes of your experiences and people close to you and different things, and I know that you know a lot about things, and I always appreciate your support, and then you coming on the show, which you've done before, and to talk about these things. And I wish you could come to the Utah UFO Festival.
Well, I wish I could too.
Well, get the little miss, put her in the car, come to the Utah UFO Festival. That'd be fun. Think about it.
Instead of spending $300 on a UFO conference, use it in gas to get out here. Just teasing.
No. That's a great point, Nathan, and I want to say that, and I think for me, because I love learning about this, I've just realized that I don't have, if I want to spend my money on this topic, I'm not going to do it by going to another, big UFO conference where it's the same people over and over again. I want to see and learn different things, and I think that's really important for the growth of the subject, and I also feel like some people, not all of the people in this, but they've got a very vested interest in creating these big dynasties. And so they're going to promote the biggest moneymaker, whether that's the, secret space program or some of these things that, whatever, yada, yada. I mean, and things that they'll put things out there that aren't necessarily true or in the best interest just to make money. And you don't do that.
No. In fact, I can go to those events and we can find out who the real people are that are there for networking, and they could care less about the topic or the moneymaker. They're there to reach other people who really actually need to be reached. So even those events, they still have authentic people there, and there are people that show up there intentionally to connect with those people who are looking for answers. So every event out there is sort of a meeting area where networking becomes really important. And I believe networking is sort of an intuitive tool which is required for us to come together and to get to the point that we need to progress towards, because I even though I might sometimes scrutinize and criticize commercial events, I believe that they still serve an important role in bringing people out of the woodwork for networking purposes and to connect those friends and those people who are supposed to cross paths, because nothing is spontaneous. I believe everything happens for a reason. There's an intelligent design, and I'm not speaking on a Christian level here or even on a religious level. And in fact, I find the word spirituality offensive, because I feel like the English language dumbs down our interpretations of reality. We need to. Some of the experiences I've had are like language barriers breaking down, and this is where the whole topic of telepathy and other things come into the equation, because we are infinitely capable of so much more, and until we start realizing our own talents and abilities, they will continue to they'll try to keep us from awakening, but I believe we have the ability to progress at a hyper rapid pace. And that's why I believe in what I'm doing, because I believe we're heading in this direction, and it's really hard to water that down in such a way that, everyday people will understand it. But let's take some more callers. Eric, I didn't mean to go off on a tangent.
No. And I just want to say, Amy, if you're still there, I love you, and I appreciate you, and you are awesome to call in. And I think, yeah, absolutely. And Amy, I'm going to be calling you this weekend, just so you know. Just put that on your calendar. And
Awesome.
thank you very much. And
Nice meeting you, Amy.
I love that. Thank you. And Bruce, I know that you wanted to call in, and we're running out of time for the show, so we will get you in next time, Bruce. Thank you for supporting the show and everything. But Nathan, I wanted to get back to all of this because it is true. We're all trying to find connections, and we're trying to find people that are supportive. And you and I both know that as we move through this, people that we maybe once found to be, that we held in high regard, we don't now. And we're finding, at least for me, that I find people that are behind the scenes that aren't really coming out to any of these events, people that are doing research and putting their head down. Those people are hard to find, but once you do, you've got this big underground network of people that will allow you to learn and to also carry on the work that they've done. And I think that's incredible.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we're getting people, get a load of this. We're getting people that had grown up or had lived in Joshua Tree, and they never went into contact in the desert because of the cost. And they have plenty of resources. They have plenty of money. That's not the problem. It's just they didn't think it was worth the cost. So we've got people coming up from Joshua Tree last year that supported our event because they felt like it was in the truer spirit of some of these original experiencers and their gatherings that they were doing out in the Joshua Tree, California, back in the 50s. So in some ways, I learned about the history of giant rock. I didn't know about the integratron. I'd never heard about any of these sort of things. And I went to Desert Center and went to the Adam Adamski contact site. And there's a lot of history and American history regarding some of these stories. And I can't say for certain whether they're true or not, but I feel a certain energy or at least an intuition that brings the past with the present and the future with the present. So I think we're still on that journey, and all these things will eventually make sense to us as we unravel them and we start to progress.
And I absolutely agree. I think, for me, it's been interesting. And Nathan, I need to get you up to Salt Lake because I want you to come to my archive and look at that. It's been amazing to see all of these periodicals and research and things from the 47 on, where there has been a very this subject has been dominated by people with religious and political beliefs, and it has been, I believe, kind of steered so people are, instead of looking at a sighting and being unbiased about it, it's becoming this spiritual experience, or it's becoming something that has been manipulated by different groups and factions. And to me, that's really dangerous.
and because it's more suggestive. It's not innocent.
Right, absolutely. And I think, you bring up a good point about indigenous peoples. I mean, I did a field research study at a place in southern Arizona, and that was absolutely amazing. I will never, ever forget that experience. And it's a place that many of the best researchers in the world have been, and that location is kept in confidence. But that these people understood that there was something there, and something that they needed to protect or hold in a spot, a sacred space. And they understood that. And we are so arrogant now that we don't. And that could be to our detriment.
Well, you know what? I think part of understanding this phenomenon and getting closer to the truth of it is when we start learning how to unlearn everything that I feel. Listen, I'm not trying to demonize Western culture here. I'm trying to get people to think outside of that paradigm. And so when we start to unlearn what we think we've learned, and we start to reinterpret things through other means, we begin to see the larger reality. So it's almost like our interpretation, the way we were indoctrinated, and conditioned to grow up is the way that shaped our reality. And so if we can start to unlearn what we think we know, that's when we begin to start to see the bigger truth. And it's quite exciting when you can see that bigger truth. And when you start to acknowledge it and you start to connect with it like that, that's when these things start to come out of the woodwork. And I think there's that telepathy. There's all, I mean, the sky's the limit on our physical reality. And I think I like the use of the word metaphysical more than I do spiritual, because I think the English language likes to label all these phenomenons and likes to put them in tidy, nice little boxes. And I don't think that's the way reality really is. And so trying to explain that, is really hard, especially when English is limited. But there's a reason why they call it the imperial language of the world. Maybe that's by intelligent design. It was designed to colonize the world's populations and other cultures. So, that's an interesting point we should think about.
And so do you think at the end of the day, how do you feel about what's taking place now with the new show that'll be on history and the fact that this is being labeled as a potential threat?
I don't agree with that. I think the media is controlled. If you knew how many shows I've had, producers and people reach out to me asking if I've turned down so many different gigs. I've never accepted one, and I'm very skeptical of anything in the mass media. I'm skeptical of and they lose interest really quick when I tell them I'm not going to share what I know, because it would be exploiting it. It would be a form of like cultural exploitation or cultural theft even. And my worldview has been shaped by other worldviews, of course, and things that I'm comfortable sharing in a personal circle of friends. I'm not going to sell for any amount of money just so they can sensationalize it and throw it in the gutter. I don't do that. There's a ancient scripture that says, "What is the profit of the man that gaineth the whole world and lose his soul?" And so we live in a culture of consumption, and we've got to try and build something much more authentic
Absolutely.
and superior to that.
Absolutely.
By graduating and progressing beyond that.
Absolutely, and that is a wonderful way to close the show. I'm Erica Lukes here with my friend Nathan Kalushaw, who's going to be hosting. He is the fearless leader of the Utah UFO Festival. They are doing a great job. We will be in Cedar City in a couple weeks. I'll be posting the links. Nathan, thank you for being here. And again, you really rock. I'm so proud of you and so excited to be involved with the Utah UFO Festival. I hope all of you have a great weekend. Stick around for a great night on KCOR and check my Facebook out for updates on my trip to LA. We'll catch you next week.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at UFOClassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south.